My big fat claim of the day is that modern men have become like flaccid plastic bags. Welcome to the plastic bag theory. My name is Alessandro and this is Shut the Fuck Up and Listen. This is my podcast where I help men go from boy behaviors to healthy men behaviors to becoming better husbands. Now, this whole plastic bag theory is actually not even coined by me. I started talking about the plastic bag, or men becoming like plastic bags, or at least having the spine of a plastic bag. And all of a sudden, it started getting picked up in news outlets. I started seeing it on vice.com. I started seeing it on news.com.au. I started seeing this, and all of them quoting Alessandro, the men's coach, talks about plastic bags and how men are plastic bags. And I was like, well, shit. Let me actually talk about what I meant, number one, so that we can actually speak about it. And we can also then talk a little bit more than, just what I did as a viral Instagram video. And I can actually get to the point of why I think this is happening and how the fuck we can get past it. So I want to take you all the way through it, and we're going to go from the beginning. What was the actual thing that I originally read online, or the script that I wrote online, and that's the thing that went viral, which created the theory, the plastic bag theory. Okay, I'm gonna read it for you, and then we're gonna talk about it. So started with easygoing husbands are safe at the start and then damn right exhausting for wives as the years go on. Here's why. Because at the start of the relationship, easygoing husbands feel like a gift, specifically if wives had shitty boyfriends. Because you, in comparison, you're flexible. In comparison, you don't argue much. You're agreeable. You don't make things heavy. You won't abuse her. You will be kind and sweet. At the start, compared to those shitty jerk boyfriends, that is very safe. So why is it a few years into the marriage, she's saying things like, I don't feel safe around you anymore? So here's what easygoing actually means. It means that you don't initiate things. It means you don't really decide on things. You don't mind. You go with the flow. You don't have any opinions. You wait to be told. So life keeps moving and you just drift down the proverbial river like a plastic bag. The thing is, she doesn't want to live like that. That doesn't sound like a life. So she ends up taking over, filling in the gaps, plans, decisions, logistics, emotional tone, what happens and matters in the relationship, what's coming next. You're feeling kind and chill and relaxed and easygoing, right? But to her, it's just more work. And she's starting to feel overwhelmed. And she's feeling like she has to take care of everything because you just go, we'll sort it out later. And it's not actually getting sorted before, so she's having to deal with the consequences of that. And to you, you feel justified because not everything needs to be solved in that moment. And everything that doesn't need to be solved in the moment, she is doing. She's doing it ahead of time. Now, they can start to feel like, oh my gosh, there's this magic fairy that solves everything. And there's no magic fairy, it's your wife. Okay, it's your wife. So welcome to the layers of mental load, and let's get back to the original thing. The peace that she had with you at the beginning that saved her from that jerk relationship is actually no longer peace to her. Now it's overwhelm and stress, and so to her nervous system, it starts to just feel unsafe because it's always unsafe. She always has to do things around you because you let things go. You're too busy floating down the proverbial river, the plastic bag. Okay, so that's why the word safety comes into it. It's not because you're a bad man or a jerk. It's because you're creating overwhelm within her nervous system. So the wife is not getting overwhelmed because you're too much. A wife is getting overwhelmed because she's doing too much, which should be shared. I get it that you're confused. All of these things that make you safe at the start is what makes you feel like you're a good husband. And so it feels like someone's pulled the rug out from underneath you. No one taught you that. That pleasing kind of kindness, the giving up and support, the easygoing and going with the flow attitude. Now, they're not necessarily making you a good husband, these things. They're making you passive. And just because it worked at the start doesn't mean it's going to work any longer. So going forward, she's going to need somebody that doesn't just go down the river like a plastic bag. She's going to need someone with a little bit more of a spine, someone that thinks ahead. And can you be that someone? So that was the original script that I wrote, and I've done various versions of that on social media online. And whenever I post that, it gets anywhere between like 100,000 to 5 million views, right? And what I see from this is just the wall of women going, oh my God, I feel so seen. How did you know my experience? Well, let me tell you first my story, okay? I know that experience because I lived on the other side of it. My wife went through that experience with me. She had a man who was very, very kind and go with the flow. In fact, that was the kind of man my dad was. And I learned that from him. It's okay. Don't worry. I don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But societally, it's not fine. The only person who makes it fine is the woman. She's the one who's going to step up and do something about it. But men, we don't see that side. We don't see that side at all. And so all that stress, all that pressure, all of those things, they inherently go onto her. And that's what happened with my wife. That's what happened with my wife. And then she told me I need to do more of a man or I'm leaving. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean? But at the core of it was understanding this. So you see, one of the big misconceptions that I get from men here, men are going to come to the table and they're going to say things like, yeah, but what if, when I do things are like she doesn't like that. We'll deal with that in this podcast episode, right? We'll talk about that towards the end. But how do I actually step up? Again, we'll talk about that at the end. But first we want to talk about how this happened for us collectively as a society, right? Why is this the way? Well, I truly believe that within society today, we've been told different things, and what we get told goes through in trends. Okay, goes through in trends. So, back in the 50s, you can see the strong trend was women in the kitchen and men are going to go out and provide. And we get this real patriarchal sort of messaging, okay? And that, I would say, is a lot of where that jerk thinking comes from. And if you want to classify this, I would call that all spine and no heart. And it's completely, it's a system that was just awful, okay? So we can see that. We can see that system there in the 1950s or so. But then, then we've got feminism that comes through. And the moment that feminism comes through, it's like, okay, let's balance the scales a little bit. But something happened with feminism that I believe, which was very interesting. It sort of just capitalism got bled into feminism a little bit because, of course, rights needed to be there, right? And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this idea that women also be girl bosses or going out into it and essentially stripped away anything that was of women and actually say women should be more like working men. And then everyone's out of the household, everyone's doing everything, and it's becoming equal to the point where men then go, okay, well now I can relax, I can not do as much. But societally, everything that was the roles of women still stayed in the hands of women. It's just now that women are also expected to work just as much as men. So the scales not only tipped, they sort of threw everything as time went on onto the women's plate. And how did men react to this? Well, I noticed that men get a lot more heart, right? They're a lot more in their feeling realms, and they like, okay, I'm going to feel more. And then this created this era of heart men. But these heart men had no spine. So we had the jerk husband and that sort of thing would have all spine and no heart. And then now we have a whole bunch of men who have all heart but no spine. They don't actually see things that need to be done. They don't see their space in, they're quite passive in life. They just give all decisions over because they're also a little bit too scared to hurt their wives, a little bit too scared to rock the boat, so to speak, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to be a jerk man, so I'm just not going to really be anything. I'm just going to be the plastic bag that floats down the river. I just want peace. Why can't everything be peaceful? I don't have anything to stand for. So I want to make the case that both that all spine and that all heart, they're both wrong, right? The opposite of crazy is still crazy. What we want is to have a healthy sense of both. We want to have spine and heart. We want to have spine and heart, and that is not too difficult to find. Now, I use those kind of terms to try and describe to men at least a story of how we can get there. I know I'm being quite meta with this because there's a lot of, you can rip apart my arguments, and even women will come in and go, yeah, but what about mental load? What about, the fact that men should just be adults and everything like this? Look, trying to describe a multi-layered and multifaceted thing through multiple different analogies and things like that is really quite difficult. So that's why I like the imagery of being like, look, the prevailing problem, if the prevailing problem is passivity, then let's imagine to vilify that passivity by talking about it like it's a plastic bag. So how do we get away from the plastic bag? How do we get away from the plastic bag? Look, there are some really good books that I think that men can read. on things like mental load and domestic labor and things like that, because I do believe that men need to understand what is actually happening on the sphere of women. I think that men don't get that women are actually elevated into a role where they have to do loads of different things. I'm going to really screw up her last name. I think it's pronounced Rupana, Leah Rupana, from the book Drained. Brilliant book for anyone who out there. But she runs the study, which is fantastic. And she's one of the world's leading forethought thinkers of mental load. And she ran a study about Johns and Jennifers. So what do I mean by that? You've probably seen it on Instagram somewhere, and there's a lot of people making content about it, but it is truly a brilliant study. Essentially, when we're going to talk about mess in the home, so to speak, because this is one of the major topics. I think people talk about passivity with men. It's like men just don't initiate change within the household. They just don't initiate things. They just don't see the mess, right? Women see the mess. That's her stand. It's like the men, they just don't see it. That's something that's different with men and women, right? Well, in her study, she wanted to see if that was true, but then also go a little bit further and to work out why men are not initiating or picking up the slack, so to speak. Why are they, so quote unquote, these plastic bag men? So what they did in the study was they actually gave controlled subjects different pictures. So the first picture was like a picture of a messy room. So they got the picture of the messy room, and in this messy room, they would show men and women alike this room and see if they could identify it was messy. 100% across the board, both men and women could identify that it was a messy room. Great. So it's not a fact. It's not a fact that men don't see mess. They see mess just the same. But here's where it gets really fucking interesting. Men and women are judged differently if they make the mess. They are judged differently if they make the mess. So what does that mean in practicality? Both control groups were told the mess was made by a different person. First control group, they were told that the mess was made by John. So let's ask you questions about John. John's got a messy room. What do you think about John? Oh, he's probably just late to work. He didn't do that right. Okay, he's okay. It's John, right? Does it make him a worse father? No, he's just a little lazy today. It's not a problem. Would you more or less likely to employ him? Neither. It doesn't matter. It's just John. John's room doesn't mean anything to us, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So you don't really think anything badly of John because of a messy room? No, not at all. Now, Jennifer. What do you think of Jennifer? Oh, Jennifer really, this is a completely different control group, right? From both men and women. And across the board, over and over again, they would say that Jennifer would be lazy. Jennifer was actually maybe a little bit mentally unstable. And yes, they would be less likely to hire Jennifer. Yes, they would be more likely to judge Jennifer based on that room. So one thing that I see here, this is huge, right? So think about what this does to the psyche of men and women. So when somebody's going to come over into a home and be a visitor, a woman knows instinctively, right? Studies have shown it. A woman knows that she will be judged by that person. She knows it. Now, what does the man think? The man has no fucking idea of judgment. He might say, relax, honey, calm down. Just be fucking quiet over there in the corner. No one's going to judge us. Kind of true. No one's going to judge you, but they're going to judge her. They're going to fucking judge her. And that's your wife. Okay? You live in different worlds. So that's explaining some of the reason why there's passivity there. It's explaining some of it. Okay? That's the mental load side of it. I'd say men just haven't seen it. They don't have stakes. There's no fucking rolling Indiana Jones ball of death behind them coming to get them, which there is for women. Okay? So that's one part. The next part that I see is, look, I think we have an epidemic of men really struggling with handling things that are hard. So let's imagine women do have this rolling ball of death behind them, which is the fact that they're going to get judged, they're going to have less jobs, they're going to have more issues with family members telling them that they're not good enough, they're going to have a lot more of the pressure and the judgment from the outside world. And men don't have that, right? So women actually start training their ability to do hard things. Men start training the ability of the opposite, of explaining away, letting it go, don't worry about it, okay? And so they become really good. They become really good at not facing hard things. Not facing hard things. When they need to do something hard, they ignore the call of doing something hard and they go for instant gratification. And I'm not saying it's only a male thing. Of course, there are women who would do this as well, but I see this there's a reason why when I talk about this fucking script, it gets blown across all of social media. There's a reason why people across the world are quoting it. It's because it is a trend that we all are seeing, but we're too scared to admit it. Men are becoming more and more passive. We're not going out and doing the things we know we need to do. I have coached over people in the last year alone. And in that time, and 200 men, not women, 200 men in that time. And I would almost boil that down to one of the most important things is that men know what they should do, but they're a little bit too lazy to do it. They would rather peace. It's just easier to play a video game. No one's going to judge me on that. It's just easier to watch the football. No one's going to judge me on that. It's just easier to do this. The problem with that is within a household, within a shared responsibility life, who is going to do that stuff? The person that's going to be judged for not doing it. Your wife. So here comes that part about safety. Safety. Guys, easygoing guys, right? If a woman has had a jerk boyfriend, a guy who was all spine, a guy who was just an asshole, right? At first, she's going to choose you. First, she's going to choose the nice guy, the easygoing guy. Of course she is. Because he's not going to abuse her. He's not going to hit her, okay? But then, as life goes on, he's just not going to pick up any slack and she's going to have to handle it. And over again, she will start feeling less and less secure because she's doing everything. And so that's where I truly believe that men need to start seeing is what's going on in their life is shared responsibility. There's no magic fairies around to do anything. So literally, if you have to, men, draw up a fucking list, write your own fucking list, but draw up on a whiteboard everything that gets done in the house. Notice your wife. If toilet paper is there, right, sitting on the fucking side, did you put it on? No. Then who did? Your wife. Who did? Your wife, right? Who then bought the toilet paper? Was it you or was it your wife? Who then knew that it needed to go on the list? Was it you? Was it your wife? There are a million of those micro decisions that happen every single day. Every single day. Let's imagine that you had a worker at work and you were a boss, okay? And you had somebody always coming in and they always needed a list for how to do things. They always asked you how to do their job every single day. There was a million questions all the time. You'd get really pissed off. And you'd say, what are they doing? Are they just getting money for nothing, living in this life? Well, that's you in your life if you're a plastic bag man. If you're floating down the proverbial river going, I'll do the hard things later. I'll let my wife pick up the slack. And so how do we get back to this? Let's first deal with what men tend to hit me back with when I speak about this. They're going to say things like, yeah, but my wife will always be angry at me if I do step up. My wife will be angry at me if I do step up. There's some things we have to deal with within that line. Number one, she's probably angry because she's been in this situation a little bit too long. Right? So if she is angry, she's been in that situation for quite a long time and she's getting quite fed up. And so that anger is almost understandable. Because men might say, yeah, but I might do one thing and I might do the other thing. And if I do either of them, she's asked me to do both. And if I do either of them, then she's going to be angry. Well, it's like, you're actually not doing either of those. You're trying to do it for her. And that's another thing that gets wives angry, is the fact that we're doing things for them or to help them rather than seeing that they are our shared responsibility of life. Okay, these are shared responsibility of life. And then the other part of it is, if your wife is getting angry at you or getting angry at this, stop with this mindset that you're doing it for her, you're also then tying your sense of self into her emotions. You're tying your sense of self into her emotions. Look, I'm not going to step up and grow a bit of a spine and and actually be present and awake within my life because my wife would be angry at me. Jesus Christ, listen to yourself, buddy. Like, it's okay if your wife is angry. She's a human being. We all get angry at different things, right? We all get angry at different things. What you need to do is listen to that anger and hear if there is truth behind it. So if she's angry at the way you've done it, right? Look for the truth and go, she's angry because I've done it wrong. Okay, let me spend some more time present to do it better. She's angry because actually this is a trigger from her past. Okay, let's work together on that as a relationship dynamic. She's angry because she's now seeing that I'm only doing it now after 10 years. Let's give her a little bit of grace because that must feel fucking tough to only come at it now like that. Okay? So let go of these mindsets that you shouldn't be in control of your life, that life should just take you down the river like a plastic bag. That is the core of the plastic bag theory. I'll work on it as time goes on. I didn't know it was going to be a theory until I just spoke about it out loud. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knows this is not like, I've also seen it misquoted out there online and in some people's articles and things like that. They've gone ahead and spoken about it like low effort men for dating. Like, it's not about low effort men for dating. It's simply in relationships, this pattern of being nice and easygoing, specifically at the start of a relationship, that feeling safe, and then the nervous system not feeling safe because overwhelmed mental load and drain has come because of passivity, lack of initiation, lack of follow through, lack of presence within a life. When those things are present, that becomes the theory of a man becoming a plastic bag. Anyway, this is Shut the Fuck Up and Listen. I'm Alessandro Fasali. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave us a comment. Tell me what you think about the plastic bag theory. Tell me if you think I'm a fucking idiot. I don't mind. Men, we need to engage with this. And if you tell me I'm a fucking idiot, I want to know about it. Because guess what? You will have actually woken up from your stupor and you might be able to express these ideas. We pull them out and then we go, are they right or wrong, right? I don't know all the answers. I just know that we should stop being fucking passive. So if you hate what I'm saying today, please let me know. Because that way we can genuinely wake the fuck up. Cheers, guys. That's the episode. That's all I got for you today. I just want you to remember you're not alone in this. Make sure you subscribe to stay connected, of course, and comment your win, because every time a man sees other men winning, they don't feel alone anymore, and I love that. Tools are in the show notes, starting with the Better Husband in 2-minute emails. Let's build this together. I'll see you next week.